The glass lobby of Aurora Tower gleamed under spotlights, its polished floors reflecting the glitz of the product launch event in full swing. Vivian Vale, the CEO of Aurora Systems, stepped out of the elevator dressed head to toe in white, commanding, confident, a vision of success. The crowd of investors and media figures turned with admiring eyes. 4 men broke from the crowd and began closing the encircling distance between themselves and her. One, tall and clean-cut, leaned in and said quietly, "Come with us." Down the hallway, a janitor pushed his mop cart slowly forward. He didn't shout, didn't run. He simply set down his yellow, wet floor sign and looked directly at them. "You guys planning to slip and fall?" he asked, tightening the blue band on his wrist. "Or planning to commit a crime?" The largest man sneered, "Get lost, trash cleaner." The mop handle snapped up. 3 moves later, Noah Hale had locked 2 wrists and disarmed a third. As the 4th tried to flee, a tilt of the mop bucket spilled water across the marble floor, enough to trip him, expertly placed. Within 30 seconds, the 4 attackers sprawled on the floor, breathing hard, struggling. Vivian froze, staring at the man in janitor's coveralls like she'd never seen him before. She hadn't, not really. Noah Hale, 35, lived in the shadows of the people who built towers like Aurora. He worked night shifts, mopping floors when the city's elite slept. His life was small by design, the kind of small that lets you walk your daughter to school in the morning and pick her up in the afternoon. Lily, 8 years old and endlessly curious, had made him the blue rubber band bracelet he wore every night. "When you feel scared, Daddy, just press it and count to 4, she'd told him. "It helps with the dark thoughts." He wasn't just a janitor. That's what most people saw, but he'd once trained Port Authority security teams in de-escalation, non-lethal restraint, controlled pressure points. At work, he carried zip ties in his cart instead of tactical cuffs. Instead of a badge, he wore Lily's bracelet. 3 years ago, after his wife died in a car accident, Noah had walked away from that old world. He couldn't save Sarah, all his training had failed when it mattered most. So he turned to something quieter, something ordinary. But being invisible had its perks. You saw things others missed. Like the 4 men who'd used the freight elevator 3 times in 1 week without valid vendor badges. The paint splatter on their shoes suggested they worked together, likely from the same staging area. More telling was how they always hovered near exit 23B, just outside camera coverage, but close to Vivian's movement pattern. They were always watching, always rehearsed. Vivian hadn't noticed, nobody had. Noah had. He positioned his mop bucket near the slope in the marble that allowed precise directional spills. Cleaned with a specific microfiber head that left no scatter. Adjusted his yellow caution sign to form a triangular shield if needed. Just ordinary prep, just invisible precautions. Lily's drawing was taped inside his cart, a crayon sketch of a janitor holding a mop like a spear, protecting a woman in a white dress. She'd drawn it because she'd overheard him once, telling her bedtime stories about making people feel safe at work. "You're a hero, janitor," she'd declared. How right she might have been. At 7:57 p.m., the elevator chimed. Vivian exited into the crowd, radiant and captivating, heading for the presentation floor. The 4 men began to shift, each from different corners of the lobby, their timing completely synchronized. Noah wiped his hands on his pants, then touched his bracelet. Count to 4. 1. Vivian walking. 2. Elevator closing. 3. Men moving into position. 4. Time to act. He rolled his mop bucket into the intersection, just as one of them made contact. The big guy in the lead, confident, too confident. "Ma'am," he said smoothly to Vivian, "we need to speak with you privately." Vivian hesitated. These weren't staff or guests, but she couldn't quite place why everything suddenly felt wrong. Noah stepped in quietly, calmly. Evening, you gentlemen fixing to slip and fall or commit a crime. Get out of here, one of them snapped. It's got nothing to do with you. It does if someone bleeds on the marble, Noah replied. I just cleaned that 5 minutes ago. The lead goon moved first. Wrong decision. The mop handle rose before the man's hand could reach for Vivian. A strike to the wrist, nerve center compressed, hand disabled. Foot traction gone from a precisely soaked marble tile, the man slipped, went crashing into the wet floor sign. Noah used the momentum to drive him down and zip-tied his thumbs. Second attacker pulled a blade. Smooth step into the slippery patch, disaster. Knife twisted from stunned fingers, zip tie secured. Third reached for pepper spray. Bucket overturned. A flood of soapy water to the face, screams, blindness, zip tie. Fourth man, the one near the exit, tried to grab Vivian. She backed away in terror. Noah hurled the floor sign like a thrown shield, jamming the emergency exit. Final takedown. Mop handle across the shoulder blades, twist, leverage, restraint. All in under a minute. Vivian staggered backward, stunned. Around them, the lobby had gone silent. Investors frozen mid-champagne. Reporters watched with phones now pointed at the janitor who just neutralized 4 trained operatives with a mop and a bucket. Noah didn't grandstand. He turned to the security desk. Call 911. We've got 4 restrained suspects. Attempted abduction. That's when a reporter stepped forward. That was incredible. Who are you? Noah quietly began collecting his gear, calm as ever. Just doing my job. No way, said another. Those takedowns, you're not really a janitor, are you? Noah reached into his coveralls. Out came a silver badge. Clean, precise, impossible to argue with. Noah Hale, he said. Federal court-appointed corporate monitor. I've been assessing Aurora's security protocols for 6 weeks. Vivian's jaw fell open. You're him. The same one who submitted safety recommendations, Noah replied. And the same one you dismissed as unnecessary. The room went even quieter. The aftermath began before the police even arrived. Vivian stood frozen by the elevator, eyes locked on Noah as he calmly zip-tied the last attacker to the emergency door handle with the yellow wet floor sign still wedged beside him. Phones were everywhere now, recording from multiple angles. The janitor who turned into a warrior, the mop handle maneuvers, the final badge reveal. It took exactly 2 minutes for someone to shout the line that would go viral. Yo, he's not a janitor, he's federal. Noah didn't flinch. He was already moving to collect his scattered tools, checking the zip ties for circulation, keeping everything calm, controlled, clean. The doors burst open and building security stormed in, too late for action. One of them radioed for backup. Another rushed to Vivian, who was still processing what just happened. Should we escort you upstairs, Ms. Vale? The guard asked her. She shook her head, still silent. Police followed moments later. Uniforms fanned out. Paramedics rushed in. One of the handcuffed attackers screamed about a torn shoulder. Another just kept cursing about soap in his eyes. All 4 were restrained without lasting damage, but with bruised pride and evidence against them stacking by the minute. A financial news network reporter got in close, extending a microphone to Noah. Sir, the public deserves to know. You're not just a cleaner, you're a federal monitor. Yes, Noah said simply. Appointed 6 weeks ago by court order to assess Aurora's compliance with security regulations. And you discovered threats to employee safety. I documented critical vulnerabilities, all submitted in my report. Vivian snapped out of her daze. You're the one my assistant kept emailing, the guy behind all those memos. I am. But I thought you were just a janitor, he finished for her not unkindly. Police officers began questioning the suspects, dragging one toward the squad car. Another kept shouting, we had her, it was supposed to be easy. That line didn't help his case. As they were escorted out, Noah watched without judgment, calm just as he'd practiced all those nights. He'd known something was coming, just not how soon, and clearly neither had Vivian. Vivian stood surrounded by silence. Her launch party had unraveled into federal arrests. The applause from earlier was replaced by shocked murmurs and camera flashes. And it had only taken 47 seconds and a mop. By dawn, the video had gone viral. Single dad janitor takes down 4 kidnappers with a mop. That was the headline first posted on a minor tech blog. But once TikTok got it, nothing was stopping the train. Clips showed every angle, how a quiet, unassuming man in coveralls outmaneuvered 4 assailants using only janitorial tools and old-school restraint techniques. What really exploded online wasn't the takedown. It was the final moment when Noah revealed his federal badge. Millions commented. Plot twist of the year. The janitor was undercover the whole time. She's firing him in one scene and begging for help in the next. This belongs in a movie. It did, except it was real. Aurora Systems, a company already under court supervision due to recent financial troubles, became the subject of a full-scale investigation. Noah's official report, which officials confirmed had been submitted 2 days before the incident, became evidence number 1. It included security gaps, procedural oversights, and cut corners Vivian had directly approved. Surveillance blind spots. Emergency exits disabled from the inside. Guest badges lacking RFID security. Vendor access protocols routinely bypassed. He de-documented everything, filed suggestions, even talked to supervisors who laughed off his comments as overthinking maintenance problems. Vivian herself had dismissed updated staffing at night as excess overhead. She canceled a contract with a licensed private security service and replaced them with 3 day-shift guards who had zero protocol for corporate-level threat response. But now Vivian Vale, the glamorous, impossible-to-ignore CEO, was the one facing dismissal papers. The board met that same night. One line from the chairman summed it up. You prioritized mirrors over locks and branding over safety. The janitor you ignored just saved your life and made us a liability nightmare. By morning, media showed clips of Vivian being escorted out of Aurora Tower, stripped of access, her nameplate removed quietly before noon. The 4 kidnappers were no amateurs. Their plan had been methodical. Blend in during the product launch. Approach the CEO during transition to the private reception. Use internal access points to disappear via emergency, exit 23B. Force her to sign intellectual property transfers under duress, then vanish. They'd been hired by a rival startup, now also under federal scrutiny. Their downfall, poor assumption. They didn't plan for the janitor to fight back, much less to be a federal integrity monitor with security credentials and psychological profiling expertise. That mistake would cost them 20 years combined, minimum. Inside Aurora Tower, everything changed. The board implemented every single recommendation from Noah's report within 72 hours. New high-profile security systems, RFID access control with real-time monitoring, emergency exits with alarm triggers, night shift protocols rewritten entirely. Most surprising, to Noah at least, was what they framed. He came in one evening and near the main desk, they'd mounted Lily's crayon drawing, the one she made months earlier, taped on the inside of his cart. It showed a janitor with a mop as a knight's lance, protecting a CEO in a white dress. Beneath it, a brass plaque had been added. Sometimes heroes hide in plain sight. Dedicated to Noah Hale, federal monitor and father. Lily visited his workplace that Friday. She held his hand and stared up at the wall with wonder. "They put my drawing on the wall," she whispered. "They did," Noah said, his voice tight with emotion. "Now everyone knows you're important." He knelt down. "I was always important, sweetheart. I just wasn't always visible." Quiet consequences echoed, too. The event coordinator who spilled coffee on Noah and laughed about his repair junk was quietly terminated for creating a hostile atmosphere toward a federal official. The facilities manager who scoffed at security proposals was demoted. Noah didn't gloat, that wasn't the point. He kept showing up on the night shift, even after his role became public. His salary jumped to federal grade. He could have quit manual duties entirely, but he didn't, not yet. The work gave privacy, presence, routine. It let him pick Lily up, walk her to school, be the parent she needed. The building staff who once barely registered his greetings now listened when he spoke. They began treating every cleaner, every maintenance worker, with second glances and more respect. Not because he had a badge now, because they'd realized the badge had been there all along, just invisible. Vivian vanished from public life for a while. Rumor had it she took a mid-level operations job at a startup across town, with significantly humbler surroundings. One social media post showed her bringing coffee herself to her team. Someone in the comments pointed out she thanked the janitor too. Redemption or consequences, we may never know, but she was no longer the glamorous queen of glass towers, not yet. Aurora became the new model for security protocol training. Business schools discussed the Noah Hale incident as a case study in what happens when companies overlook the people who protect them. 3 months later, Noah got a letter from the court system. Permanent position offer. Full-time federal contract, nationwide assignments, excellent salary, flexible schedule. He accepted with conditions. He'd travel only to cities where he could still walk Lily to school. The government agreed. A year passed. Aurora reopened the tower with a ceremony no one expected. No luxury event, no investor gala. Instead, they invited maintenance staff, night shift workers, janitors, and security teams from all over the city. A memorial wall had been constructed across from the security desk. At its center, Lily's drawing, but now surrounded by dozens of similar drawings sent in by children of blue-collar workers from around the country. The brass plaque had been updated. Heroes hide in plain sight. They clean our floors, secure our buildings, protect what matters. Dedicated to every night shift worker who keeps the world running while no one's watching. Noah stood on the podium in a plain suit, federal credentials visible on his lanyard. No speech, just 3 objects laid carefully on the microphone stand. Lily's blue bracelet with "Breathe" etched in shaky handwriting. His worn maintenance gloves, and the original yellow wet floor sign, bent slightly, edges scuffed. Symbols, yes, but more than that, proof. Proof that in one moment, a mop did more than clean. It defended. That dignity wasn't about paychecks or perks. It was about presence, poise under pressure, and character when no one's watching. After the event, they walked home together. Lily wore a newer bracelet now, this one sleeker made of silicone embossed with the word "Hero" in neat 9-year-old lettering. "Daddy," she asked shyly, "are people still mean to janitors?" Noah gave her hand a squeeze. "Some are, but now more people understand." He looked down at her, meeting her big, sincere eyes. "Respect isn't a job title, it's how you treat people." They passed by the glowing tower, his tower cleaned, secured, and now remembered for the man the world didn't see coming. And somewhere inside, taped behind the new security desk, was a replica of the bracelet that started it all. "Breathe." Weeks after the memorial was unveiled, life found a new rhythm for Noah and Lily. Their mornings were unchanged. Walk to school, share a story, exchange a hug. But people noticed now. Teachers, other parents, even strangers on the street recognized him. "You're the janitor who stopped that kidnapping, right?" "I'm the dad who walks his daughter to school," he'd say with a smile. But his presence carried more weight now, not just because of the badge around his neck. Because people finally understood what he stood for. He was requested to appear on national morning shows, podcasts, even a documentary film crew wanted to follow him. He declined most of them, not because he was shy, because fanfare wasn't important. Lily was. At night, after she fell asleep, Noah reviewed new assignments. The Justice Department now offered him private corporate audits, contract assessments, and event security evaluations. But he picked carefully. Single dad duties didn't allow for travel-heavy gigs. "Daddy," Lily asked one evening, resting her chin on his shoulder while he read proposals, "will you have to fight more bad guys?" "I hope not," he said, kissing her cheek, "but I'll always be ready if I do." She reached into her art box and pulled out another gift, a new drawing folded like a letter. "Open it." Inside was a picture of him, not as a janitor this time, but as himself, suit and badge, holding Lily's hand. Two stick figures centered in the picture. One said Daddy, the other M.E. "You're still a hero," she whispered. He framed it beside her older one inside his home office. The only two accolades, he liked to say, that really mattered. Aurora Tower transformed over the following months. The new CEO, brought in by the board, implemented Noah's full set of recommendations. Security was no longer just about guards and fire drills. They began treating people in roles like Noah's with respect, as essential. Every hiring orientation included a new motto on the printed manuals. Alternative titles. Janitor equals safety monitor. Cleaner equals site guardian. Security equals peace maintainer. Each phrase credited a Noah H in small print below. Word spread across the industry. Other corporations asked for his audit process template. Requests came from tech parks in Silicon Valley, skyscrapers in Manhattan, hospitals in Chicago. Noah licensed the entire framework under a public contract, free for public institutions, paid for private companies. He didn't want wealth, just sustainability, and dignity for workers like him. Lily stuffed checks into envelopes with him at the kitchen table. "Will we be rich now?" "We'll be comfortable," Noah said, folding another letter. "And we'll still eat noodles on Fridays." She cheered, noodle night forever. But not everything was behind them. One morning, a letter arrived by private courier. Thick, cream-colored paper, no return address. Inside, a handwritten apology from Vivian Vale. "I dismissed you, mocked you. I failed to see the value you brought, not just as a monitor, but as a man, as a protector, as a father. Your daughter saw you for what you are. I didn't. That's on me." Folded inside was a photo printout. Vivian, now wearing jeans and a basic blue sweater, mopping the floor of her new office. A smile on her face, quiet humility in her eyes. She'd taken an operations role for a supply chain company, no corner office, no assistant. But she had, Noah noticed, placed her own wet floor, sign properly behind her as she worked. Months passed, then a year. Noah took one more high-profile assignment, unannounced. A corporate retreat in Colorado for a fintech startup. Intel suggested the CEO might be laundering funds. Noah attended as overnight staff. This time, he didn't intervene with a mop. He submitted a 74-page report, double-sourced, legally airtight. The company's stock plummeted. 3 executives were indicted. No viral videos needed, just quiet, methodical work. Back home, Lily slept peacefully. The world felt a little safer. One rainy afternoon, standing inside a bookstore near the school, Noah overheard two mothers talking near the magazine rack. "Did you hear about that hero janitor from last year?" "Oh yeah," the second said. "Turned out he was secretly a federal agent or something." "You ever wonder how many people like that we pass by every day? You know, people we ignore." Noah didn't interrupt. He just tucked Lily's workbook under his arm and walked quietly to the cashier. The most profound changes happen not in towers or offices. They showed up in little moments. Like the cleaner who got invited to a quarterly strategy meeting. The receptionist who stood up when her janitor walked in. The security guard who now carried both a radio and a clipboard and had a say during drills. Culture had shifted, not dramatically, but undeniably. The mop wasn't just a cleaning tool anymore. It was a symbol. Noah kept his bracelet, the original blue band, barely holding together now. He wore it during every meeting, audit, or interview, not for show, for grounding. It reminded him that staying calm mattered, that humility didn't mean silence, that you could lead without shouting. That some messes required more than cleaning supplies, but also that courage didn't require a badge to exist. You just had to stand up when it counted. 1 year to the day after the attempted kidnapping, Aurora Tower held a second ceremony. This time there were no speeches, no press, no polished branding campaigns. Instead, the lobby was filled with folding chairs. Seated in them were people who usually worked behind walls and underground. Cleaners, janitors, night guards, maintenance engineers, parking staff. Over 200 of them from across the city, invited personally by Aurora's new CEO. Near the front row, Noah sat beside Lily, a soft smile on his face as she held his hand tightly, wearing her most formal dress, paired with neon sneakers. A hush fell over the crowd when the new memorial was unveiled. Directly beneath the mounted drawing Lily had made, now gently laminated to protect against age, were 3 new framed pictures, each one drawn by a different child. All showed a worker, mop, keys, flashlight, helping someone. Sometimes it was a crying woman, sometimes a hurt kid. They weren't just pictures anymore, they were recognition. Beneath them, a new brass plaque read, "Dedicated to the invisible protectors." The quiet ones, the night workers. The ones who keep us safe when no one's watching. Noah was invited to speak, but again, he declined the podium. Instead, he walked to the front table and placed the mop handle he'd used during the attack, polished, preserved, and slightly worn, into a glass display case. Next to it, he laid 2 things, Lily's original blue bracelet and a folded yellow wet floor sign. No one said a word. They didn't need to. Later that evening, Lily tugged on his jacket as they stood near the museum glass. "Do you think I'll need to be a hero someday like you?" Noah knelt. "Someday, baby, someone might need your help. When that day comes, you won't need a mop or a badge. You'll just need to choose to do the right thing, even if nobody sees it." She smiled, thoughtful, like helping clean up messes even if they're not mine. He nodded. That counts as hero stuff, she decided. The legacy extended beyond Aurora. A nationwide nonprofit was formed, Project Plain Sight. Its mission: spotlight, celebrate, and support the millions of people who worked invisible shifts. Custodians, security, maintenance crews, especially those in high-risk, under-recognized environments. Noah wasn't the founder, but he was its first honorary chair. He helped draft their campaign motto, "Visible, valuable, vital." The name came from Lily herself, who said during an interview, "I didn't know grown-ups could be invisible. Turns out they just needed someone to notice." Noah let her have the quote. She de-earned it. Then came the letter from the Department of Justice. An invitation. Not just to continue as a corporate integrity monitor, but to help train the next wave of them. Teach them how to quietly observe, how to blend in where nobody looks, how to see things the camera misses, and how to protect without being noticed until it matters most. He accepted, with conditions. His training sessions had to end by 3:00 p.m. That was when he picked up Lily from school. It was at McAllister Federal Building that he met Jordan Lee, a young woman from Minneapolis with a background in loss prevention and emergency response. She recognized him immediately. "I saw the launch video," she said during training. "Watched it 20 times, that mop scene still gives me chills." Noah smiled. "You won't need mop skills, you'll need eyes, calm, judgment." She paused, "And what if it escalates?" "Then you act fast, quiet, without hurting anyone more than necessary. The goal's not takedowns, it's people walking away safely." "But you fought 4 men." "I protected 1 woman, that's what mattered." She wrote it down. 6 months into his new role, Noah passed through a lobby for a morning health audit where he noticed a maintenance worker struggling to fix a jammed access door. He stopped. "Latch pin seated wrong," Noah said gently. "May I?" The worker nodded. Noah crouched. A flick of the wrist guided pressure. The door clicked into proper alignment. The young man blinked. "You were a technician." "No," Noah said, standing. "Just someone who knows systems." "Wait, you look familiar." Noah just smiled. Sometimes we're hard to recognize out of uniform. Back at home, he added a 3rd drawing to his living room wall. Lily had drawn herself this time, in a white dress, holding a mop. "I think I want to be a safety hero when I grow up," she explained. He looked at it in awe, not just the art, but what it meant. His daughter didn't want fame or power. She wanted to be the person who helped, the one who showed up for others. Invisible, maybe, but essential. Absolutely. Autumn found its way back to the city. Golden leaves swept through the streets outside Aurora Tower. A year and a half had passed since the incident, and yet its echo lingered in ways no one could have predicted. Noah and Lily stood quietly in front of the memorial wall again, this time just the 2 of them. The lobby was empty save for a night guard nodding from a distance. Her drawing, worn but preserved, still held the center spot. Crayon lines scuffed over the months, colors dulled from time, but meaning fully intact. "Do you think it still matters?" Lily asked, lightly tapping the glass. He glanced up at the small brass plaque beneath it. "Heroes hide in plain sight." "More than ever," Noah answered. She looked around the lobby. "It's different now." "Yeah," he said. "People see things they didn't used to." Earlier that week, another case had come across Noah's desk. An anonymous whistleblower from a pharmaceutical company flagged inconsistencies in employee safety protocols. It was flagged as low priority. Noah disagreed. He requested the assignment and conducted all his assessments without posing undercover this time. His face was too well known, but his questions, still precise. His methods, quietly thorough. He discovered not a criminal ring this time, but a culture of carelessness. Flawed evacuation maps, fire doors locked from the outside, a security team hired for image, not expertise. The report ran 57 pages. The CEO received it personally. Instead of going viral, the company implemented the changes quietly and sent Noah a thank you note, signed by every employee on one of the impacted floors. It read only one sentence. "We feel safe now." No stories, no headlines, just meaning. That was enough. Back home, he started something new. In the evenings, he and Lily worked on a children's book together, a simple story about a dad who cleaned things while saving people. It had a title in crayon on the cover, "The Man with the Yellow Sign." Every page they finished went onto the living room wall, not for publication, just for them, a private legacy. Sometimes changing the world didn't mean a monument. Sometimes it just meant the right story told at the right time. And this one belonged to them. Then one quiet Tuesday, he got a visitor. Vivian Vale. Dressed low-key, no entourage, just her in a file folder. "Thought about sending a letter," she said, "but I figured you'd prefer honesty in person." Noah offered her a seat in his home office. The old coveralls still hung on a hook beside the door. The faded mop leaned in one corner, still stained at the tip. Sentimental, not practical. Vivian opened the folder. Inside, paperwork showing she'd joined Project Plainsight as a regular donor. She wasn't a CEO anymore, but she was using her remaining influence to fund scholarships for children of building staff, college access, trade certification, art programs. "I thought maybe, if you and Lily would contribute the original drawing," she said, voice softer than he'd ever heard, "we could use it as the campaign's symbol." He looked at her silently for a moment, then smiled faintly. "Tell Lily yourself it's hers." Vivian left with a promise to visit again, not as a former executive, just a citizen trying to grow. That weekend, during a safety seminar, Jordan Lee, the integrity monitor Noah had trained months prior, presented her first investigation. She closed the session with a quote she credited to her mentor. "You don't need to be loud to be seen, and you don't need to be seen to matter." When the room applauded, Noah just sat quietly in the back, watching the next generation rise. The last page of the children's book came together late on a Sunday evening. Lily handed him the final drawing, 2 stick figures again, one larger, one small, both wearing hats that said monitor. Underneath, just 5 words: "We keep people safe together." He hugged her tighter than usual. Months later, walking past Aurora Tower on a snowy night, Noah stopped under the orange glow of an overhead light. The building shimmered the same way it had the night everything changed. But now the lobby held not just wealth and glass, but memory. A sign near the revolving door caught his eye, small brushed steel. Simple. "This building is monitored for safety 24/7. Every role matters here. Facts on metal, truth embedded in culture." The world hadn't changed overnight. But somewhere in towers and terminals, auditoriums and office parks, janitors were being seen. Guards were being included. Maintenance staff were being asked, not just told. There were still people who ignored them, but fewer now. And every time someone paused to notice, stopped to thank, held a door, or asked their name, it chipped away at the old culture. Slowly, invisibility was becoming a thing fewer people accepted. Because somewhere out there, the man with the mop might be more than he seemed. And everyone had started asking a new question. What if we've been walking past heroes all along?